Hi, everyone. This is Al Bob, your friendly Papa Smurf. And I am what is known as a griot. And a griot is a person who tells, it's an African word for a person who tells the story of the tribe. And I have many stories of many tribes because I'm a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist. And one of the tribes I lived in, anybody out there in YouTube land seen the movie Across the Universe? It's about the middle 60s to early 70s, mostly about the East Coast, mostly about the Lower East Side. And between 1963 and 1973, a guy
Manhattan?
named Billy Graham,
Manhattan.
Manhattan, New York City, Lower East Side. There
Yeah,
was a guy
that's
named
good.
Billy Graham, and he wasn't the evangelicist. He was a rock and roll promoter, and he had a place in San Francisco I don't know if it was the Haight, but it was called the Fillmore West, and the Fillmore was a movie house company, and he bought that movie house that could seat maybe 3,000 people back in the old days of the big theaters. And he also bought a Fillmore East on 6th Street and 2nd Avenue, right on the corner. And I'm back in I think it was 67, Summer of Love. And I had started being an electrician back in the day when I was 9.
I
About
had a
19,
60 I had a 67 Cadillac.
it's a nice Cadillac. And I was an electrician by that time. I mean, real thing. My boss would send me off and I would do jobs. And we didn't, I mean, we did new work, but we mostly did restaurants, factories, and we worked for landlords. And the landlords were always going, Al, I got this nice apartment. All you got to do is sweep the halls, change the light bulbs, and fix things for me every now and then, and you can have the apartment. So there was an apartment I got, my first apartment, when I was 14 years old. I was making 500 bucks a week. This is in 1966 when I did this. And my dad, hey, you don't like it, you can leave. Well, this landlord kept saying, hey. So I said to the landlord, hey, show me the apartment, and it was on the corner of 9th and Avenue B in the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
And you're not shooting my balls, are you?
No, I can't see it. I mean, just your pants.
So I was coming from work, heading from my apartment, which was on the corner of 9th Street and Avenue B. It had been a nun's
Yeah.
nunnery, and it had a beautiful, beautiful garden in the back, which was
Yeah.
part of my apartment. And my apartment wasn't in the basement. It was like my windows along 9th Street. I saw people's knees walk by, and this was in the days of mini skirts, so I saw more than that. Um, and so I was walking home, and I heard this tremendous explosion coming from the Fillmore East's what was known as a stage door, which was these big open doors that went out onto the stage so you could load equipment off of trucks. And some guy, the Grateful Dead was going to play there, and they had the wall of sound. And some moron who worked there wired them all together, and then plugged them into a 110 electric outlet. And it exploded all of those speakers, like 400 of them, out into the street, like the speaker wire unfurling. And and then this guy started screaming at this guy, and I was like looking at all the chaos that was going on. And the guy screaming, his name was Bob Goddard, and he owned a thing called Pig Lights and another thing called the Joshua Light Show. And he did all of the all of the overhead projection of the kind of lava lamp kind of things. He did all these great effects of the 60s before anyone did effects. In theater, they just turn the lights on, turn the lights off. This guy was like Bob Goddard. So anyway, I was looking, and he looks at me. I got my little pouch of tools in my little bag. He said, hey, you an electrician? I said, yes, sir. He says, come up here, fix this. I did. He goes to the other two morons who caused the havoc, "You're fired. Kid, you want another job?" I said, "Yes, sir." So I started working at the Fillmore East when I was 14 years old. Anyway, so I was their master electrician. I wired everything there. And it was an old house, like from the, got electricity in the 1890s. They maybe did an upgrade in the 1920s. But the wire was from that. It was like Frankenstein, plug fuses, knife switches. It was really pretty bad. And so, I put in sub panels for the lighting that guys would roll in, well grounded power for the sound system so you wouldn't have any buzz. And I learned a lot about sound and electricity and good grounding. Anyway, so I've been working there for about a year. And my boss said, "Hey, go unload that truck." And I said, "Bob, I'm the electrician. I don't unload trucks." He says, "Well, there's nobody here. Someone's got to do it. Do it." So I went down there, and there was a black guy leaning against the wall of the stage. And I started unloading this truck, and he goes, "So do you need a hand?" I said, "Yeah, I'd really appreciate that. That's very kind of you." And he said, "My name's Jimmy." I said, "My name's Al." So we unloaded the truck. We sat on the side of the stage. We shot the shit for about 20, 30 minutes till my boss screamed at me and told me to do something else, and I did. And that night, because I would be there, I mean, the people who ran the show. I could, but I didn't. I was just there to make sure nothing blew up, or if it did, I could take care of it immediately. And so, because one of the brilliances of the guy who owned the place was that he gave the door to the people, and he had a 16-track recording studio there. And he, like, live at the Fillmore was a brand. All of Janis Joplin live at the Fillmore.
I remember hearing it now,
right?
yeah.
All
Live
of
at
the Grateful
Fillmore.
Dead. And so
Yeah.
he made millions. They got $2 or $3 grand for that show because he gave them the whole, total house, and he would keep the tapes. And that brought him further than just a promoter or just a guy who owned a couple of theaters. He was, producing their sound from the Fillmore. Anyway, so later that evening, when the show starts, and out comes Jimi Hendrix, the black guy who helped me unload the truck. Jimi Hendrix was a real human being. He actually helped me unload the truck. He's a star, but he actually helped me unload the truck.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes. And
so you met Jimi Hendrix.
Right, that way. We unloaded a truck, we talked.
That's unbelievable.
Right? And a year or two later, a year or two before he died, they were building him his own studio.
Yeah, I remember.
Electric Lady.
Yeah.
Right?
It was very expensive. He was his big project, and he wanted to record
so
on it. I think
and
he
that
did.
was
Did
downtown.
he ever record it, or did he not get to?
I'm
I forgot.
not quite sure, but he remembered me, and he told, Billy Graham, "Remember that kid, your electrician? I want him to wire that studio." He said, because he was standing on stage, and there was a hum in the amplifier, and he fixed it immediately. And he's all right. He was talking about me. So I want me, to wire Electric Ladyland. And that's how I got into recording studios. I mean, really, it was through Bob Goddard and Billy Graham. But, and a guy named Chipmunk, who was the voice of the Fillmore East and West. He was the announcer. Did you ever hear Janis Joplin and the Holding Company? And you hear this male voice, Janis, Big Brother in the Holding Company, and Janis Joplin, and then boom, boom. That's Chipmunk, and he was the guy who was the voice of Woodstock, not for the movie, but on stage.
Cool.
So that was a period of time when I was still quite the teenage boy, but I was surrounded by
Yeah, I saw pictures of you.
Right. I only do it when, as Louise Etro once said, when things get weird, the weird get professional. That used to be on my business card.
Okay.
So, okay, cut.